president. And I've known her quite a while. Today is our 41st anniversary. And we've known each other for 45 years, so I got a grip on this subject here. I know it's been a bizarre election. That's the most anodyne word I can think of to describe. But look, there's a reason for the anger, the frustration that so many people feel all around the world, right? That financial crash 8 years ago had a very long tail. And then there have been all these cultural changes that the ones in America I sort of like, but a lot of people are having trouble with it. I think it's a good thing that we have more racial, religious diversity. I think it's a good thing that the LGBT community has finally gotten equal rights under the law. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing that we have the youngest, most diverse workforce of any big country in the world. I think it's our meal ticket to the future. But there are a lot of people who feel that they've been left out and left behind in this economy, and they think nobody cares about them. And I can tell you, when I was born in Arkansas at the end of World War II, we had the second poorest state in the country. But nobody thought they were poor if they had food to eat, could bring a neighbor to lunch, clean clothes on their back, and they thought they could make tomorrow better than today. If you take away that last thing, then you feel not valued. You feel like you don't matter. And it's having no upward mobility hurts worse than going through temporary economic adversity. I was just reliving my life the other day. I don't do that much. I spend most of my time thinking about the future, but I just made a list of everything I'd ever done to earn money, and I don't know, there's more than 24 things. And for a while there, it looked like I couldn't hold a job. or I had 3 or 4 at once. But I never doubted I could make tomorrow better than today. The other day I was in the upper Midwest, and an African-American bishop came up to me. And he said, "We met before, but I don't think I ever told you that my grandfather was Luther Black of Hope, Arkansas, where I was born." And he said he was a hardworking man, and he lived about 2 blocks from your grandfather's grocery store. And he adored your grandfather because he knew how hard my grandfather was working. And if he had to have food and he hadn't been paid yet and didn't have any money, my grandfather just said, "Go on, Luther, take what you need. Come in and pay when you can." Now, I know that was a bygone era. I know that sounds naive, but look, there was no food stamps. There was nothing. People were just working as hard as they could to keep body and soul together. And he said, "There weren't many white people that do that back then to our people, and that's why our family has always supported your family." I can take no credit from that. My grandfather was a good guy. He figured everybody was working hard, obeying the law, trying to do the right thing by their families and their communities, that we were all in this together. That is the fundamental question in this election. I just realized when I celebrated a couple months ago my 70th birthday that I had now spent half of my life, 12 years as a governor, 8 years as president, and 15 years running my foundation in America and around the world, half of my life trying to help people get a job, start a business, get a raise, educate their kids, provide health care for their family, have a place to live, and enable us all to rise together. And I've learned a few things that make Hillary's "Stronger Together" the right slogan for America and the right mindset for us. Number one, when people are angry, upset, and worried, and they feel belittled or unseen, or when there's been abuse, whether you're in the Black Lives Matter movement because you're worried about what's going to happen to your kids every time they go out the door, or you're a coal miner who believes you'll never get a good job again as long as you live, and you worry what's going to happen to your kids, you're very vulnerable to have people rub salt in your wounds. Because the easiest thing is to buy somebody who wants to divide you from other people because you already feel divided, who wants to distract you because it's hard to concentrate when you keep hitting a brick wall every day, and who therefore wants to demonize your opponent because, after all, what's anybody done for you lately, right? Or you can cooperate, concentrate, and create a new future. You can win an election with either approach, but once you're in, the only thing that works is cooperate, concentrate, and create a new future. And I've worked all over the world, and I can tell you, wherever, and I worked in places where people still live on less than $1 a day, a lot of them, where we have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, sometimes quintupled farmers' incomes who are women farming an acre of land with a handheld hoe. And wherever people are working together to do good things happen. Wherever they spend all their time fighting, good things don't happen. This is not rocket science. So what I want to say is this is what I believe. I believe America has a lot of very serious challenges. One, there is too much inequality, incomes are too low. The system still favors too much money over capital work. That is, there are too many corporations where the finance tail wags the economic dog. And the classic example of that we've been treated to this year is the movement of the Carrier Corporation in Indiana, which still has 20% of its workers in manufacturing, by the way, Indiana. They moved 2,100 jobs to Mexico, not because they were losing money. They make furnaces in Indiana. That division made $2.9 billion last year. And for every new item they sold, their profit margins were going up. They were going to save $65 million, which is a lot less than $2.9 billion, right? And the union offered to save them the money by reorganizing the work schedules. The company wouldn't even meet with them. They just threw those people under the bus. Now, why did they do that? They did it because they wanted to break the union so they could take a bigger and bigger and bigger percentage of the profits and give it to the wealthiest shareholders who demand to get their money in a year and a day because that's the time it takes to get a lower capital gains tax of 23.9%, which is less than what some of you pay in income tax. Now, that's a problem. And don't we also need... Whoa. No, don't be like them. Give him a hand. They've had a bad week. They've had a bad week. They've had a bad week. And look, at least somebody bought the guy a Hillary t-shirt so he could come under false pretenses. Give him a hand. So anyway, you know, this is a big Republican county. That's not too many, actually. A lot of... So we have these economic problems. We have social divisions. We all know it. We have security issues. We all know that. But I'm just telling you, we're the best positioned big country in the world. First of all, you mark my words, 10 years from now, economic historians will give Barack Obama much more credit than he gets today for the management of this economy. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? When I had the honor to serve, we did. We ran 3 surplus budgets. I left a big surplus for my successor, and we created 22.7 million new jobs. But we also had the information technology revolution, and we put it in every part of America, in every section of the American economy. And it was right after the Cold War, and we just kept pulling people together, pulling people together, pulling people together. When President Obama took office, he had to eat that crash, and we lost jobs for 2 years that he didn't have anything to do with. In spite of that, if you look at the last 36 years, ever since the other side's been hawking this trickle-down economics, and they don't like government jobs, you know, so just add the private sector jobs. We've had the White House almost 16 years, and they had it for 20. So what's the private sector job score? For us, 31.9 million jobs. And if you took away the jobs the president lost that weren't his fault, we'd be at 35. But, or 36. But we'll say 31.9. For them, 15.8, less than half. So this is not rocket science. We know what we need to do. If you want more jobs, higher incomes, you got to create the jobs, empower small business people, educate, train, and prepare people to do those jobs, and reward the companies that help you do it, and not the companies that let the economic tail, the finance tail wag the economic dog. It's not rocket science. So what does that mean? Well, interest rates are lower than inflation. That means if the United States sells bonds and you buy them, or somebody from another country buys them, we're getting the money for free over the long run because interest rates are lower than inflation. This may not happen in a long time. We can, in other words, for virtually free money, put millions and millions of people to work modernizing our roads, our bridges, our ports, and our airports, and our seaports. But infrastructure is way more than that now. We're in Florida today. Hillary and Al Gore are in South Florida, where people can see the ocean rising. Now, her opponent may believe that it's a Chinese hoax. All I know is insurance companies will not insure cities or developments within those cities unless aggressive efforts are being made to build seawalls, to build better foundations, to lift buildings, to do things that will minimize loss in the future, loss of life and property, which means there's a lot of money to be made in putting people to work, building greater resilience against rising water. I'll give you another example. There are somewhere between 3 and 5 million American students who will get a homework assignment next week that requires them to get on the internet, and they can't do it to save their lives because they don't have access. Those kids are going to be at a disadvantage. That's morally wrong, and it's because we have not provided uniform, affordable access to rapid broadband, and Hillary wants to do that in her infrastructure program. And I'll give you just one more. I'll give you one more. We all saw what happened in Flint, Michigan, but Flint, Michigan is nowhere near the only place in America where children, without regard to race, have elevated lead levels in their blood because of drinking water from old rusty pipes. Now, if you tore up all those pipes and laid down new clean ones, our kids would have a healthy future, and every single job and everything I just talked about would, by definition, be an American job paying above the average wage in America. there's more. There's more. 2/3 of our new jobs come from small business. The whole time I was president, we never were out of the top 5 countries in the world in new business formation. We're not in the top 10 anymore for a number of reasons. Hillary's laid out a $25 billion plan that accrues aggressive efforts to get people to start their own business in distressed areas and among traditionally underrepresented women and minorities in the small business community, and changes in the incentives to banks to make these kind of community loans. This is a very big deal. I strongly support the Dodd-Frank law, which the president signed, that keeps Wall Street from wrecking Main Street again. I strongly support that. But it's true that a lot of banks, just to be on the safe side and not to take any heat from anybody, are requiring the same sort of paperwork and collateral to make small business loans that bigger people have to provide. Now, in Florida, you know, you got a lot of big, expensive property developments. Think of this. If you're, let's say, 27 years old and you've always dreamed of opening your own bakery, and all you need is an $80,000 loan to do it, and it costs the bank as much money to do the background checks and all the requirements for your $80,000 loan as it would to make an $80 million loan to a property developer, what's going to happen? Won't be as many $80,000 loans. We've got to change that. She is the only person in this race you can vote for who's actually talked about in practical ways how to get more small business jobs. I'll give you another example. And you better think about this when you vote on this referendum in Florida. Except for Florida and a few other states east of the Mississippi and then west of the Mississippi, except for Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and California. By and large, even though America ranks first or second in the world in the ability to generate electricity from the wind and the sun, by and large, the sun shines most and the wind blows hardest where the people do not live. Like the wind blows hardest between the North Dakota border with Canada and the West Texas border with Mexico. So if you want to make maximum use of this power source, we have to modernize our electrical grid so you can take the power from where it can be most efficiently generated to where it can be most efficiently used. That also requires infrastructure, investing in new battery technology and building new interconnections that are efficient so you don't lose a lot of the juice sending it from point A to point B. All those jobs would be in America. And we can do that. And you know, you can't imagine what it would be like if Florida had batteries that would store solar power for, let's say, maximum 4 days. And then you maximize your production. Within a few years, electricity would be virtually free. And then what would happen? Wait, what would happen? Except for, you know, replacing the panels and maintaining them and all that kind of stuff. What would happen is there would be a flood of manufacturing jobs come back to America. Because manufacturing is very efficient, which means every year, same number of people can produce more stuff, which means labor goes down and you can pay workers more. But wait, that's it. And what matters is transportation costs, materials costs, and energy costs. Well, we got the biggest market in the world. You could save all the transportation costs. If you got the energy down, then we'll be able to make competitively anything in the world. And the reason that's important is there'll never be as many manufacturing jobs as a percentage of the workforce as there was in 1950. It's too productive. But every manufacturing job creates another 2.5 jobs. This is a big deal. She's the only person you can vote for that's actually got a plan to do something to make America the manufacturing capital of the world again and everything. So now, I can give you lots of other examples, but you get the drift. You know, there's lots of stuff we can do that's affordable, achievable, straightforward, will create more jobs and raise incomes. Second thing we got to do is make sure everybody can access those jobs, which means first you got to make sure every child has the chance, starting with affordable preschool for everybody, to have a good education no matter what zip code they live in. And that sounds good, but the way you do it, I believe, is to test a little less and spend a little more money making teachers better teachers, principals better principals, and bringing people in the room. And I'm not, look, I once was demonstrated against all over the country because I favored basic testing to measure things. But this, I don't think you need to give a national test every year for 5 years in a row to keep people in grade school. And but I do believe that this new bill that the president signed is much more in keeping with the No Child Left Behind theory than the old bill was. But all I'm saying is we only give 7% of the money that in the school budget from the federal government. Hillary wants to modify it some so that we invest more in improving the quality of teaching, improving the quality of principals, and involving families in the schools so we can lift performance and there'll be less difference from district to district based on income. And I think that's important. Now, finally, maybe most important of all, is everybody's got to go beyond high school to get a good middle-class job. But Hillary believes you don't all have to have a 4-year college degree, so she wants to re-dignify skills training in America and reward companies that share profits with their employees, train their workers, provide internships. She wants to make, she and Bernie Sanders did the most important thing that happened at the Democratic convention that didn't get much notice. They agreed to merge their two college plans. So the new plan looks like this. Everybody gets free community college. Everybody, tuition. Every family with an income of $125,000 a year or less, which is 85% of us, gets free tuition at any state institution for 4 years. Everybody else just above that can graduate debt-free because of work study and other financial investments. So going forward, if the Congress will pass her plan, this burden of college debt will be lifted from our young people. Now, the problem is 20 million young Americans have an average college debt of $30,000, and a lot of people owe $50,000 to $200,000, right? So here's what she wants to do about that. She wants to change the current law, which inexplicably makes a college loan the only loan you cannot refinance at lower interest rates. That doesn't make any sense. A woman I've been doing business with for more than 10 years in a little town in New York where we live sold me a pair of jeans a few months ago, and I said, "How's your boy doing?" Because I knew he was graduating from one of our state schools. She said, "Oh, he's doing great. He made good grades. He's going to do fine." I said, "You got any debt?" She said, "Yeah, quite a bit." I said, "What's the interest rate?" She said, 9%. All right. Then I asked her, "Well, do you still have a home mortgage?" She said, "Sure, I do." I said, "Did you refinance it?" She said, "I did." I said, "What's your interest rate?" "Less than 4%. There's something wrong when our country charges a young person starting out in life trying to make his or her own way more than twice the interest on an education loan that their parents pay on a home loan. That isn't right. So, especially since, I want all the young people here to listen to this. If you're 25 or younger, you got way over a 50% chance of living to be 100, and of living to be 100 without the threat of Alzheimer's or other dementia because of advances in the human genome. Which means that if you get a college education, it's more of a lifetime asset than your home will be. And we got a big stake in this. So what Hillary wants to do is, one, let everybody refinance. That means the average person, with the average debt being about $30,000, would save more than $2,000 in interest payment. But people that owe a whopping amount would save a lot more than that. Then she wants to give everybody the option to pay that loan off over a period of years at an interest rate or at an amount, monthly payment rate, never, no matter how much you borrow, never more than 10% of your after-tax income. Now think what this would mean. People could move out of their parents' house. People could actually live and have disposable income. And under her plan, you only have to pay for 10 years, and then the rest is forgiven if you have a public service job. And no matter what job you have, after 20 years, if it's not paid off, you still don't owe anything else. Meanwhile, if you qualify for a small business loan, which you can now do, your payments will be suspended for 3 years while you try to get your business up and going. Think what this would do for the American economy. All of us, we would all be better off. If you're 85 and worried about Social Security and Medicare, you ought to be for this, because those kids will be paying into Social Security and Medicare and stabilizing this for everybody because they can go out and make a living. This is something we should all be for. So, there are lots of other things I could say that will give us a more inclusive economy, but this is important. Then you've got to have a more inclusive society, which means we need police reform, but we need the police. Hillary met with some chiefs of police recently, people that really work hard to serve their community and where they've got good police-community relations. And they said, look, we all support body cameras.